Welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show where we round up the biggest stories in Formula One right now. We saw a thrilling Italian Grand Prix last week with an extremely popular winner and a lot of talking points after Monza. Now, as we gear up to head to Baku, we cover the stories surrounding Mercedes and McLaren's front wings, a potential second Spanish Grand Prix on the calendar, and Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin Valkyrie breakdown. Or was it a breakdown? Depends who you ask. Aston Martin say no. All that and a whole lot more coming right up. So Red Bull are looking into the McLaren-like flexible wing design that they actually protested earlier in the season, if you remember. We brought you that news here on the F1 Chronicle.com a while ago. But presumably that protest has not been upheld, it's not been accepted, and the wing is legal. So therefore, Red Bull are looking very closely at it. What is this going to mean for them? What could this mean for the team's performance? Because they have well and truly slipped from being the fastest car in Formula One, without a doubt, to now being one of the fastest. And even after Monza, you'd probably say not one of the fastest. One of the guys behind that, they were well and truly beaten massively. 6th and 8th place for Verstappen and Perez during that weekend. It's not really good enough for the team. That's no slight on the drivers, no slight against Perez either. That car is just not very quick. But they're looking at some new designs, including what's been so successful for McLaren, who in my opinion have the fastest car on the grid. Let's have a look at here. So, Red Bull looks set to reluctantly follow the lead of McLaren and Mercedes in terms of front wing design. Although the reigning champions started 2024 strongly, the car's handling, resistance to tyre degradation and pace have significantly waned through the car update process. Their updates have just not been working. I'm telling you, Adrian Newey leaving, that is a key reason. Already done a video on it, guys, if you want to check it out. And a while ago we did a video on the Mercedes wings. I think that was protested ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix, if I'm not mistaken. I think that Max Verstappen was able to keep the good results for a while thanks to his talent, according to Mercedes boss Toto Wolff. But now it seems that they have collapsed. I say this without understanding the exact situation and without knowing what's happening in the team. So deep is Red Bull's confusion about what has happened to the team that team consultant Dr. Helmut Marko freely admits that the engineers are currently in the process of backtracking the season-long developments to see where they made a wrong turn. However, the team is also looking outwards to McLaren and Mercedes. The front wing of McLaren and Mercedes must be analysed, according to Marko, during the Monza Grand Prix last weekend. The concern is that after the FIA clamped down on excessive flex wings in Red Bull's wings back in 2021, that Mercedes and McLaren have found new ways to pass the FIA checks whilst achieving a flex at speed. Yes, of course. So years ago that was banned. It basically means that, you know, at high speed you've got more downforce, more air flowing over the top of the wing, and it flexes from side to side, up and down basically. And that is a safety concern. I mean, it results in instability when it comes to the aerodynamics of the car, of course, which is less than ideal, but it also saves you weight, which is good. So it's kind of a balancing act really with that. When it comes to Red Bull's wing, it flexes too much, but Mercedes and McLaren apparently, according to this, have found a way to actually make it work. And Red Bull are looking into it. Red Bull boss Christian Horner says the team are not accusing its rivals of wrongdoing. He says after accusing them of wrongdoing, he tried to get both of them banned. He's trying to put both of those, he protested both the front wings. So now he's like, all right, fine, we're not accusing him anymore. He said, and I quote, "I think the regulations are very clear. I think it's the FIA that's got an issue that needs to look into the wording." Sure, mate. And if you think back to 2021, around Baku, there was a change in the regulations for the front wings. Although our wings passed the test, they were using air elasticity. So again, that's an FIA issue. No, that's a you problem, mate. We have to find a bit of faith that they'll sort this out. But we also have to have our say. You tried protesting it. And if the FIA doesn't act, well, if it's acceptable, you have to join in, begrudgingly. In the meantime, I'm sorry, I'm such a cynic when it comes to Horner, you guys know that. In the meantime, Max Verstappen has found himself in the awkward situation of now managing just how many points he can lose to McLaren's Lando Norris at each race. At Monza, his lead fell from 70 to 62 points. Max is keeping Red Bull afloat, according to La Gazzetta dello Sport over in Italy. He has transformed from an all-winning cannibal into an accountant. I love the Italians, man. They have fantastic journalists, don't they? They really do. They put us to shame in the UK. But that is what he needs to do to win the title. And Marko agreed with that assessment as well. I mean, yeah, the wings is part of the reason. The lack of working upgrades is also the reason, but the biggest reason for me is something to do with the brakes, which I've already highlighted in another video that I did a few weeks back. That seems to be the real reason why they're struggling, but this won't help either. And if they actually manage to copy the front wing design of the McLaren, then that's fair enough. And I might say, oh, they can't do that, they can't copy that. No, they can. That's what all Formula 1 teams do, they copy it. They can't do what McLaren did in 2007 with the Spygate. They can't actually get like engineering drawings and copy it from it, but they can use all these glorious high definition photos like you can see plenty of on the F1 Chronicle.com to see what they're doing and see how they're making it work. But yeah, that's kind of what's happening. They're not looking at protesting it because they protested it and it got thrown out. So now they're looking to try and copy it. That is the world of Formula 1 design. Love it, loathe it. It's been the same since the start. If you can't beat them, copy them and then try and beat them with their own designs. But there we go. That's what the story is, guys. For more F1 analysis, news and reviews and everything in between in the meantime before the Baku City Grand Prix, keep it tuned right here to the F1Chronicle.com. So it's fair to say there's been a lot of talk about flexible front wings. Red Bull protested both McLaren and Mercedes this season on account of their flexible front wings, which they believed were illegal. However, the FIA has now confirmed that they are legal. The protests from Red Bull have been thrown out. So with that in mind, why is this? Well, the FIA has come out and said that it can't stop the front wing flexing rule until 2025. So let's have a look at this. Full article on the F1 Chronicle as always, guys. You know how we do on here. So F1's governing body has given the controversial front wing designs of the rapidly improving McLaren and Mercedes teams a clean bill of health. The steadily less competitive Red Bull team and also Ferrari have questioned whether their top rivals' front wings designs flex too much beyond the spirit of the current regulations. No, well, come on, the spirit. No. Don't try and take the moral high ground here, Ferrari and Red Bull. There is no such thing as the spirit of competition in Formula 1. You're all trying to outdo each other, you're all trying to one-up each other, and you're all trying to bend the regulations as much as you possibly can to gain an advantage, because that's what makes F1 great. It's the level of competition these guys have. Just don't give the whole, the spirit of the competition. No, absolutely not. If they just stumbled on that, if they stumbled upon that, they would be exploiting it for all it's worth, like McLaren and Mercedes are doing. So it's not a new issue in 2024. At recent Grand Prix, the FIA has been placing mandatory cameras on the wings to check the way they move at speed. Automotor und Sport says that Nicholas Tombassis, the governing body's single-seated director, has confirmed that those tests will continue until the Singapore Grand Prix, so it'll be there in Baku and Singapore the next two rounds. But even if something is ultimately found, Tombassis warns, we will not react until 2025 at the earliest if it becomes necessary. It would have too much impact on not only the aerodynamics but also the structure of the parts he added, so even if we were to announce a new rule today, the teams would not be ready before Abu Dhabi. And that is fair, because at the end of the day, the front wing of the car is arguably the most important aerodynamic device on there, because it affects the air at the front of the car and it affects everything going behind. So all the parts from behind the front wing, which is, surprise, is the entire car, all of that will be affected directly by this. You know, you change the front wing, then your rear wing is going to react differently. Your side pods, your roll hoop, your everything. Even the ground effects underneath of the car. At the very same time, the FIA has issued a media statement this week to insist that the current designs on the McLaren and Mercedes cars are fully legal. However, the Paris-based federation acknowledges the controversy. They said, and I quote, "The front wing has been a challenging area throughout the years because of the aerodynamic loading patterns between different competitors vary, and it's therefore difficult to find a load vector which will cover all types of front wing construction. Other areas of the car, including rear wing and floor edges, have much more consistent aerodynamic loading patterns across the grid, making for a more universal load deflection test. The FIA has the right to introduce new tests if irregularities are suspected. There are no plans for any short-term measures, but we are evaluating the situation with the medium and long-term mind." And if you don't know that, you might you might think that's a bit of a cop-out from the FIA, but it's not. And the reason for it is because things like the floor, like they've said, like the side pods, stuff like that, it's in a very fixed position on the car. It is effectively the entire car that is holding it up, if you know what I mean. The front wing is just there by itself. It's just held together with the car, with the front of the nose, and that's it. So therefore, because it's also a very long and thin aerofoil, it is prone to vibrating during high speed because of the weight on the car from the air rushing over it. The faster you go at any one time, effectively you'll have more air pushing down on it and it'll flex, which teams in theory don't want to do, but for weight saving measures, and also it can, in theory, if you manipulate it in the right way, result in additional downforce or reduced drag compared to your competitors, and that's what Mercedes and McLaren have effectively done. I've actually seen some of the onboard cameras that they're talking about to test this, and you look at the Ferrari and the Red Bull wings, and those front wings look exactly the same at low and high speed. However, the McLarens and the Mercedes, they bend significantly. It's a big change. Just final thing on this article here. So Automotor und Sport claims that McLaren and Mercedes style 2024 style wings are particularly innovative as they bend twice, the flaps folding backwards and then the entire wing rotating around the axis. And you can see this as well on the onboards because they have like a cross on, I think it's the McLaren has like a white cross on the black wing, and it opens and closes, which is really cool, really smart how both of them have done that, and it's no coincidence that their pace has improved massively. So for Red Bull, it's currently a state of needing to follow the leader. We'll have to build a wing like that too, said Christian Horner. And for once, I actually believe Christian Horner. They will try and copy it. And that is not a slight against Christian Horner or Red Bull. That is what Formula One is. Again, whether you like it or loathe it, you have to push things to the absolute limit. You copy your competitors. If you're not winning, you've got to look at what they're doing to win, and you've got to try and emulate and see if it works on your car. But of course, it's a very complicated thing. They could build a carbon copy, literally a wing for the Red Bull, but it might not work as well because of the aerodynamic parts behind it. It works with the McLaren, but will it work with the Red Bull? Who knows? But yeah, there we go, guys. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, of course, as always, when it comes to the controversy around these front wings. Are the FIA correct to let these pass as legal? Do you think they need to do something stronger? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, as always, subscribe to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more F1 content just like this. So Dr. Helmut Marko, the special Red Bull advisor, has come out in the media and said that they're already working on a solution to their current problems in Formula One. Now, we've already brought you many stories about this. Red Bull's pace has dropped off a cliff. There are many reasons for this. The asymmetric brakes being one of the rumoured reasons. But there's also things like the departure of Adrian Newey and stuff like that going on. So let's have a look at what Marko's saying after the Italian Grand Prix, because this was probably Red Bull's worst race of the season, not only from a points point of view. That's very nice to say, but also from a performance point of view. They never ever look like getting pole position or winning the race today. Earlier this week. So let's have a look. So, the departure of Adrian Newey is too simple an explanation for Red Bull's performance slide, according to Marko. The team is not hiding either progressively worse in handling of its 2024 car, nor the engineers even fully understand what's going wrong. Some think the explanation is as simple as the departure of the genius technical brain that is Adrian Newey. But Marko says that's not true. Newey was no longer involved in all the details of the car development since the spring. I mean, they have been declining pretty quickly since then. I think there could be a link there. However, the 81-year-old Austrian does admit that Red Bull is missing Newey. This cannot be denied, of course, he said. Newey is Newey, a man with incredible experience, but our problem lies elsewhere. The examples of Mercedes and to a lesser extent Ferrari have shown just how difficult dealing with these wings on the cars can be. Of course, the front wings, I mean, I've already brought you a video that should be going out at the same time as this one, going over, the fact that Mercedes and McLaren's front wings are legal now, despite those flex, despite the protests that Red Bull have put in. But let's keep going with this. So, Red Bull suspects that while a major car upgrade throughout 2024 so far added downforce, it totally messed up the handling and balance characteristics that Max Verstappen needs to make his talent shine. We realised at Monza that there is a massive fundamental problem with our car. Hopefully the tyre testing taking place in Monza this week will help us get back on the right track. Meanwhile, Liam Lawson was at the wheel of the Red Bull for Pirelli's 2025 tyre testing on Tuesday, and he will switch to the junior RB cockpit on Wednesday. Interestingly, RB's latest upgrade, used only on Yuki Tsunoda's car at Monza, also turned out to be a flop. Yuki was extremely unhappy with it, Marko said. He found the car more or less undrivable. And unfortunately, he didn't drive it very far because he got hit by Nico Hülkenberg and retired as a result. We also believe that comparing the findings from the wind tunnel and the racetrack is an important part of the problem. The good news is, though, that Marco insists that Red Bull are starting to understand the issue. He says that Verstappen had a breakthrough moment at Monza and told his bosses and engineers in a series of Zoom calls what he now calls needs to be changed. Max recognised where the weakness of the car lies on Saturday. A decision was made together with the engineers on how we can improve the car and make it competitive again. We just have to find out which part of the car we made worse. If we know that already, we would not be in this situation. Marco thinks that Red Bull can still rescue its hopes in both the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. I mean, Constructors will be a big ask, but Drivers could be doable. Absolutely. I think Verstappen's still the favourite. Because you're going to get races where Lando's not winning, like this weekend just gone. And he was even behind his teammate in the end. The lead in the Constructors has shrunk to 8 points, he said. But we clearly don't have to write anything off yet. Because if Max starts winning again, then he finishes and then finishes between 3rd and 5th for Checo, that'll be enough to successfully defend the title. So yeah, I mean, it's all if, buts and maybes. I mean, if they found the issue, they found what Max has been saying is the issue. Now they need to find what the cause of it is, and then they need to develop something that fixes it. And given their form so far in 2024 when it comes to upgrades, that fix might not even work. And now we're heading towards a couple of flyaway races. We've got Azerbaijan coming up, then we've got Singapore on the other side of the world to where the Red Bull factory is. After that, it's the USA, Mexico, Brazil, So the races are going to come thick and fast eventually, and they're also going to be far away. So testing these upgrades out is going to be difficult. It's just not working for them right now. And I know that it's not as simple as Newey leaving, but that's got to play a part. I feel like it's a two-pronged attack. Well, three-pronged in a sense. You've got Newey leaving, his influence on the car going. That's why, despite having the most dominant car in Formula 1 history last season, this season they went into it really quickly, but now they're struggling. There's also the asymmetric brakes, which I've already spoke about in another full-length video for you guys on F1 Chronicle. Check it out if you haven't already. I think it's titled the real reason why Red Bull, or is this why Red Bull are struggling now? And then also, McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari have just done a better job of developing the car. So there's many reasons why Red Bull are struggling. Can they rescue it? Time will tell. It completely. You've got to think that eventually something's got to work on the car, but it doesn't. It doesn't have to. Hey, I'm a McLaren fan. I went through years of suffering with how bad that car was. It was awful for so long. Partly because of the Honda engine, but also because the development of the car just was not good. To blame Honda entirely, despite what Alonso said about the GP2 engine, I think that'd be wrong. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm waffling. What do you guys think? Are Red Bull able to rescue this slumping performance now? They are currently, as it stands, they are the 4th fastest car in the grid, but they lead both championships. It's a really odd position to be in. I've never known this in F1 history for a team to drop off from being the very best. I mean, you compare it to Aston Martin last season, but they were never the fastest. I'm talking about the fastest car by far in F1 has gone from that to the 4th fastest within just over half a season. Unheard of in my opinion, but yeah. For much more F1 news, content, analysis, everything in between, keep it tuned right here to the F1Chronicle.com. So, interesting noise coming out of the Formula 1 CEO Stefano Domenicali about the Barcelona circuit where the Spanish Grand Prix is currently being held. Apparently, the chances of this race continuing under a different name from 26 are not gone. Despite there being a Madrid street circuit ready to go for the 2026 season to take over the Spanish Grand Prix, we could see a Catalan Formula 1 Grand Prix, just like we see in MotoGP, where they have actually 4 rounds of their championship in Spain. But yeah, interesting stuff. So let me just go through this full article on F1Chronicle.com as always, guys. You know how we do on here. F1 CEO insists it's possible that the sports calendar can cope with 2 World Championship rounds in Spain. In 2026, traditional Spanish GP host Barcelona is still set to host its race, but it will be in addition to the brand new street event in Madrid. And while Madrid has a long-term contract all signed and sealed, 2026 is the last contracted year for Barcelona, where the race takes place at the circuit to Catalonia. I was expecting this question, said F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali. But maybe I wasn't expecting it to be the first one. We are here to talk about Cantabria, not Catalonia or Madrid. Guessing he was over there, wherever that is. Indeed, after it emerged a few days ago that Banco Santander is leaving Ferrari as a sponsor, Domenicali was in the Cantabrian capital, Santander, that's where it was, to announce the Spanish bank as the Sports News global sponsor. So they've pulled out of Ferrari and they've gone to be a Formula One sponsor. Interesting. I mean, it's probably got something to do with Carlos Sainz being axed by the team. I don't think that would have gone down too well with Santander. Spanish journalists, however, wanted to know if Barcelona stands a chance of keeping its F1 place on the calendar alive after 26. We're very happy with what Barcelona has done and what it's trying to do to renew its contract with us in the future. But we're also very happy with what Madrid brings, because it comes with a proposal for a city. Yeah, more money in your pockets. It's a good time for Spain from a sporting point of view. Yeah, won the Euros, Alcaraz doing well in the tennis, the Women's World Cup side as well, they've won in the football, they won in the gold medal for the Olympics as well, for the women's football. So yeah, Spain's doing pretty good at the moment, it's fair to say. And as always in life, competition offers the best result for sports. One report chimed in to say that 2 races for Spain might be definitely viable, given there is talk of a 4th annual race in the USA. Apparently that 4th race in the USA is not going to happen. They're not really keen on it. They have enough apparently. They're instead wanting to go to other markets like Rwanda. Nice one, guys. 1 more race in the USA is not true. So Domenicali said that there. That is clear. 3 races in the USA is perfect. But as I said before, I am not here to talk about the calendar, but to talk about Santander and the great agreement we have signed, of course. This is a good sign, because everything can help, but it's not right to put the focus on this today, because the focus today is on the great collaboration between F1 and Santander, blah, 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 blah. Right, very fascinating stuff. But, yeah, it is interesting, because they're always going to use this opportunity to ask the guy about stuff like this. I mean, for me, I'm not against there being a 2nd race in Spain, but that would have to come at a cost. And I've already spoke about this at length before when it comes to the F1 calendar. They say they don't want a 4th race in the USA. They say they don't want to go past 24 races, and that's going to be the limit with the Concord Agreement. And the Concord Agreement, for those that don't know, that basically dictates certain rules around F1 in terms of things like how teams can enter, how much dilution fee they have to pay, how many races there are on the calendar as well. The limit is currently 24. They're currently in discussions to renew that agreement, and they're also rumoured not to increase it past 24. So if they're wanting a 2nd race in Spain, it would have to come at the cost of one of the races currently on the calendar. Now, there are strong rumours about the Dutch and the Belgian Grand Prix falling off the calendar. Imagine if we had Rwanda in 26, which I think is a bit tight for the deadline. Let's just say we do. And then Spain as well at Barcelona, a Catalan Grand Prix in Formula One. And again, I'm not against it. Spain has had 2 races on the calendar before, Barcelona and Valencia. Valencia was a disaster, to be honest. There was a good race there in 2012 to kind of send the racetrack off, but it was absolutely terrible. But Barcelona is a better track than that. I think in this modern era of Formula One as well, it's actually been quite good since they removed the chicane, since they changed some of the layouts of the track, and also since the cars are now easier to pass. This is a track that I think is pretty decent, and I think it'll be way better than the Madrid street circuit from what I've seen from simulations and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really put much credence to this, because to host a Formula One Grand Prix costs an unbelievable amount of money, and the Spanish government does put a lot of money in to be able to have the Spanish Grand Prix. Presumably they would not do the same for a Barcelona Grand Prix or a Catalan Grand Prix in Formula One, because it's just too much money. I've already done an in-depth discussion with my good friend Owain Medford about how much these races cost to host, and it is eye-watering, absolutely eye-watering. So it's no wonder that a lot of venues just can't afford it, even with government backing like the Spanish Grand Prix has. But that's my thoughts on it all, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would you like to see Barcelona stay on the calendar? And if you would, which race would you want to see drop off the calendar in its place? Because that is what would have to happen. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, keep it subscribed, follow, share, like, ring the bell as well to see much more F1 content on the F1 Chronicle, just like this. I don't like this. I really don't like this. F1 is going to unveil a new race rotation system soon. Oh boy, here we go. I brought you rumours about Belgium and Netherlands being rotated and all that. It's happening, guys. It's happening. That's what I'm getting from this. Let's have a look at this. Stefano Domenicali has teased that Formula One will soon boast many Grand Prix in Europe. It has many Grand Prix in Europe. It's got like 10 of them, and it's probably more actually. Currently, although the continent was the traditional and historic centrepiece of the sport, there are only 9 races in Europe on the 24-round schedule. Wasn't bad with a guess of 10 there. But there is currently a lot of talk about F1 wanting to expand to new hosts, triggering the concept of having some European rounds annually alternate from the start of the new regulations era in 2026. Zandvoort, Spa-Francorchamps, Imola and Barcelona are the early candidates for an alternating scheme, allowing them to be able to pay lower fees to Formula 1 and still keep the Grand Prix alive. Yeah, but they're half dead. They're alive, but they're also kind of dead because they're not going to be there every year. This week, as F1 CEO Domenicali unveiled the sport's new sponsor, Banco Santander in Spain, the former sponsor of Ferrari, a reporter asked him if Germany stands a chance of making a comeback to the calendar. Germany has always been part of our calendar. No, it's not. It's not been on the calendar for 5 years. There's not been a Grand Prix in Germany since 2020. It's not a part of your calendar, Steph. What are you talking about? And full of motorsport and automotive tradition. I agree with that. But unfortunately, we don't have a Grand Prix there this season. It's not on your calendar, Stefano. What are you doing? It's Schrodinger's Grand Prix. It's there, but it's not there. What are you on about? This is not because we don't want to, but because because Germany doesn't pay us enough money as much as Arabia. Oh, sorry, no, let's not talk about that. What he actually said was, but because the situation in Germany has changed. Yeah, they don't pay you enough money anymore. We are trying to find the right partners to start a constructive dialogue again, to pay you enough money again. Audi is coming to Formula 1, and with Mercedes we have a strong partner. Everyone is pushing to find a solution, but we don't have that solution yet. He is quoted as saying by Bild newspaper, but our task is finally to find one. The problem is that in agreement with the teams, F1 owner Liberty Media has capped this calendar at a maximum of 24 races in a given year, but a system of annual race rotations gives the sport the most scope to expand within Europe. It's expanding within Europe though, is it? Let's be honest here, guys. Come on, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's not really making a difference. The overall, if they want to use the term like calendar footprint, like FIFA like to use, the overall footprint of a European season is reduced or kept the same. It's not expanded. Yes, they go to more locations, but those locations are split up every year, so it doesn't really matter, does it? In 2026, you'll see something interesting. We're discussing with other organisations in Europe to do something that will be announced soon. 2026 will be a year in which there will be many Grand Prix in Europe. At the moment, we have many options. I don't like it. I mean, to be honest, if I'm being totally honest here, I don't think Formula 1 should have 2 rounds in Spain like has been already kind of opposed to Formula 1. I feel like, I would much rather have the Catalan, the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona as the host of the Spanish Grand Prix rather than Madrid. The street circuit there, of course, is going to host in 26, but Barcelona has a contract with Formula 1 for 26, but it can't host the Spanish Grand Prix, so it'd be the Catalan Grand Prix or the Barcelona Grand Prix or the European Grand Prix like Valencia used to host. And I don't think Italy has a God-given right to have 2 races on the calendar either. That being said, the United States has 3, so it's like I can forgive it, and I love Imola personally. It's not the best track for overtaking, but for 26 onwards, that'll probably change. So what they're trying to say is that there could well be rotation between Zandvoort and Belgium, Spa-Francorchamps every year, and then there could also be rotation between Imola and Barcelona, which I'm not against Imola and Barcelona really. I would much rather us go there on a rotation rather than going to somewhere like, I don't know, Rwanda. Oh wait, we're going there apparently, so I don't like this. It's a way to shoehorn more rounds in without increasing the number of races on the calendar. I am all for them keeping the races at 24. I think that is enough. I think that if anything is too much. I don't think Formula 1 needs more Grand Prix. If anything, it needs less personally, but that's just my opinion. It's never going to go down because the money is going up and the sponsorship's going up and the investors have to go up as well, so the races therefore have to stay high. This is a way for Formula 1 to make more money out of the same venues. Instead of charging, I don't know, let's say for example, Zandvoort pays $30 million a year to have Formula 1. Do you really think they'll say, oh, you can have every other year for 15 million? No, they'll charge 20, 25. It'll just be a slightly reduced rate. And overall, Formula 1 makes more money while allowing these races on the edge of financial terms to be able to still be on the calendar, but obviously only be on the calendar every other year. So that's my rant. That's my opinion. I'm very negative about it, as you guys can tell probably. I want to hear your opinions though. Am I being too much of a cynic? Perhaps, but I stand by my points. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a discussion as always. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more Formula 1 news and analysis just like this. Nothing to see here, folks. Aston Martin have said that Alonso's Valkyrie did not break down at Monaco. That's despite it being seen on the back of a truck this last few days or so. Now, I think we've actually got a gallery of this out on the motoringchronicle.com. If you're into your hypercars and supercars, that's the place to go to find those. But this is a crossover with Formula One as well, because Fernando Alonso, of course, the incredible Formula One driver for Aston Martin, was taking his multi-million-pound hypercar, the Aston Martin Valkyrie, out for a spin around the streets of Monte Carlo, only to have it on the back of a truck pretty soon after. So it's honestly funny, but the fact that Aston Martin have denied it's broken down, this is a bit embarrassing. Let's hear the explanation here. You know what? Maybe he fancied a little ride. Maybe Alonso's like, you know what? I've had enough of driving this car. I would rather be in this cab of this lorry here, and it carried me back to my multi-million-pound Monaco apartment. But let's see what the actual reason is. So, full article on the F1Chronicle.com as always, guys. Aston Martin has dismissed widespread reports about the health of Fernando Alonso's new hypercar. This week, the Silverstone-based Formula One team and its carmaker parent company proudly boasted that two-time F1 champion Alonso received a delivery of his custom multi-million-dollar Valkyrie hypercar, a true F1 car for the road. Yeah, really showing it is so far. The Spaniard, according to a press release, drove his new Adrian Newey designed machine out of the iconic Monte Carlo Bay Hotel. Newey designed that. Could that be a clue as to where he's going next in F1? Just a little side note there. In the hours before the announcement hit journalists' inboxes, residents and visitors to the Principality also spotted the Alonso branded car apparently broken down and then being hauled away on the back of a tow truck. Tobias Gruner, a writer for Automotor und Sport, said suspecting a mechanical breakdown was understandable, as the complex electrical system is said to occasionally exhibit small glitches. And in all fairness, cars nowadays are more complicated than they ever have been before, especially cars at this end as well. It's very easy for them to be absolutely fine with just some sort of system failure to mean that the car, I was going to say retires there, but it breaks down. I mean, I've known some mates to basically get their first leased car and go for like a Mercedes or a BMW, and it breaks down the day after they get it. I mean, the car is 99.9% fine, but it's just one little glitch that makes it break down, and once that's resolved, it's fine and it's alright, but it's still a bit embarrassing for Aston Martin, to be honest. Indeed, footage of Alonso's stationary Valkyrie depicted an Aston Martin-clad employee in the cockpit with a laptop. But when we asked Aston Martin, they assured us that the arrival and departure on the truck was planned. No, and not the result of a breakdown. Yeah, so Alonso thought, you know what? I'm not going to go for a nice Sunday drive or a nice Tuesday drive, whatever day of the week it was, around the French Riviera. Now, I've done that loads of times. I'm bored of that, mate. You know what? Let's go on the back of a tow truck. You there, Aston Martin employee, come and play some, I don't know, I was going to say some Quake or something. Come and play some EU4 or something in my car. Don't just make it look like you're repairing it, but you're not really. The car, and I say also quote as well, saying the car was transported to another location at the request of the new owner. Yes, the repair garage to get it sorted out. This is Aston Martin. Are you living in cuckoo land? I understand they have to keep up appearances and they want people to buy these cars, but mistakes happen, and when it happens so obviously in the public eye, just be honest about it. Just say, look, we found a glitch in the system. This is a custom-made car. This is not reflective of your car if you've got a couple million quid to spend on one. By denying this, by denying any kind of responsibility, they show that A, they're lying and they're untrustworthy. Allegedly, sorry. I've got to get that keyword in there. I don't want to get sued by Lawrence Stroll. I'd rather not. And also A, they've got problems, B, they're not being honest about it, and C, that if they just came out and just said, look, this mistake has been fixed now, then they'd be fine. They'd be absolutely fine. But as it is, Aston Martin are they're being very naughty boys. They're not telling the truth here. I don't know how anybody could say that this isn't broke down. I can't say the word. I can't say the word. Guys. You know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, for much more motoring, motorsport, and Formula One breakdown news, do keep it tuned here to the Formula1Chronicle.com.